So hello everyone, as Debbie said, my name is Troy. I am an MBA student here at Carnegie Mellon. We did participate in the Cleantech competition and the finalist competition in Denver, and it's been great to kind of have the Department of Energy on our side. We not only got a little bit of money, but just some of the collaborations that we've been able to have with them has been really helpful. Before I talk about Gecko Robotics, which is the company that we've gone through that process with and the one that we're doing today, I want to talk a little bit about my previous startup, which was called a company called Better Speech. And what Better Speech was myself and 4 developers and designers, and what we were trying to do was help people speak better publicly. As well as for individuals who English wasn't their primary language to be able to improve their speaking skills. And it was a crowdsourced platform that basically could upload a video of themselves and get feedback from other individuals using the platform. And then there was like a paid model as well where you could get some professional help. And what I learned from that startup was I wasn't really that passionate about what we were doing there. It was a great idea. It seemed like there was a lot of interest, but it lacked that passion. And what that led to is that startup fizzling and basically it just not moving forward anymore. And so what I realized is I need to do something that I'm really passionate about. And the 2 areas that I am passionate is healthcare and energy. And I spent my first 5 working years in healthcare at a large organization and really learned a lot, but didn't necessarily feel that I was able to make the impact that I desired at a large company. And so the other space that I really wanted to invest in was the energy space. And 2 of my friends from undergrad were working on a wall climbing robot, and some of the use cases were in the energy space, specifically to do inspections. And so I joined them about a year ago, and the 3 of us formed a company called Gecko Robotics, which is the company that we went through this Cleantech competition with. And what Gecko Robotics does, just to give you a little bit more of an insight, is most of our customers come from the power industry, and we inspect things like boilers and pipelines and other equipment. And what we do is perform a variety of different inspections that enable them to run more efficiently, identify problems. It's a lot more safe than kind of the traditional methods, obviously, because you have something going into a hazardous confined space without requiring a human to be there. They can operate that remotely. And so it's really cool to be able to provide value to a customer and see that being very tangible and saving them money and giving them better insights, as well as just improving safety for workers. And so my takeaways kind of between those 2 experiences were, and lessons learned, is you got to be really sold out for what you're doing. You got to be 110% about it. You'll face a lot of rejection. You'll have a lot of people tell you this isn't doable. And there's just a lot of tough times associated with running a startup. But if you're really passionate about what you're doing, that grit will get you through. And it's so rewarding when you find something that you really enjoy doing. The second thing is to really, even in the early stages of research or building out a new technologies, to really try to understand the market. And that means understanding who your end user is going to be. Is that going to be a customer? Is that going to be another business? Is that going to be a government agency? And what I find and what I found even in previous startups that I've done is that sort of gets neglected a little bit. And I think it's just so vital to be able to really understand that market, and if that's not your sweet spot, find someone that can come alongside you to help you with that. Basic feasibility test, understand what it's going to cost someday to build this, what are the kind of the revenue models associated with it, and what's the market size. And that just really empowers you to build something that a user is really going to want and kind of get that feedback early on. So kind of transitioning from that, I think startups are phenomenally rewarding. There are a lot of sacrifices. I've really, really enjoyed it. And, I couldn't imagine doing anything else. Talking a little bit about some of the competitions that I participate in through Gecko Robotics and other startups. There's just so many of them out there. Whether it's a Hacka startup, I've competed in 2 of those, both at a CMU level and a citywide level. It's a great place to really start. The regional Cleantech competition here in the energy space has been a great experience. We not only won the one at Rice, but we went on to the Denver competition, which was nationally held, and we were one of the finalists there. We won 3rd place at the Rice Business Plan competition, and then we also went through Y Combinator Accelerator. And those have all been really meaningful experiences. Not only have they transformed how the company, the trajectory of the company, but also what we are working on. And I often get the question, like, how did you get accepted to this, or how did you win this competition? And I think that's not the best question. I think a better question is, what can be learned from filling out an application or participating in one of these events? Because it forces you, and I really take these applications seriously, because it forces you to think about your company differently. You know, you might think about something that you otherwise hadn't have thought of, or just pushes you to kind of think about some of the business aspects of what you're building. And so, furthermore, once you're at one of these events, I found it so invaluable to talk to other people there, whether that be the judges or advisors or just the other participants. Because the more you can talk about your company and what you're doing, the better off you're going to be. And so some tangible examples of how that really helps is you will never stop selling your company, whether you're selling that to a potential employee, a customer, an investor down the road, or even just a supplier partner. Being able to speak well about what you're building and why it matters is so important. And I've found these competitions are great because you have people that you've never met before. You can talk about what you do, learn about what they do, not only make those really valuable connections that could result in one of those people being a co-founder or an investor or whatever, but it's going to force you to speak about your company. And if you can tell someone that has no idea about the technology and they can get it, that's a really, really powerful thing, and something that will enable your company to go really far. So with that being said, let's see if I had any other thoughts here. I can't recommend enough participating in these competitions. Even if it's just filling out that application, you can learn a lot about what you're doing and what you're building, and force you to think differently about that. I've mentioned that there's so many great startup support at your school, local hackathons, as well as some of the more national competitions, and they've been so helpful for us, and they continue to be. Some of our customers have come from them, and investors, and it's a really valuable experience to go through, and as well as meeting some fantastic people that are now close friends. With that being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions about entrepreneurship, my current startup Gecko Robotics, any of these competitions.
So questions?
Yes.
What kind of prior experience did you have in the business, or you said you worked 5 years in the healthcare industry, but what experience helped you prepare, I guess, for the startup, starting a startup?
Yeah. So I think these competitions and these hacker startups and everything, what you'll find is that so much of that focus is on the business side of things. The technology has to be there, but they'll spend 75-80% of the questions that you get on the business side. And so just even going through the application process, they're going to require you to look at the market. How are you going to get customers? What's the business model look like? What's your team complement? Do you have the right people with you? And if you don't have that business acumen or background, I'd encourage you to partner up with someone. I mean, there's plenty of people that are looking to get that experience and work alongside someone that has a really great idea. And so, a lot of it's been learned on the job too. But I think these competitions really help you think about how you would structure a business and making it economically viable and going to market and those sorts of things that writing a business plan. It's part of this, and so I think it's really valuable just to go through that process. And you'll have mentors along the way. I mean, a lot of them offer practice pitches, or will review your application and give you feedback. So it's an iterative process, and they'll be completely free at your disposal. That people that have a lot of experience doing this.
Yeah, and just add another aspect of it is that, because I watched Troy over the course of, 3 months or 4 months, whatever, it's amazing how much you can do in those couple of months, right? So from the first time, I started watching his presentation in January, which is when people start putting in their draft video pitches for the competition, all the way through the national competition, which was in June. So I guess over 6 months, I watched how he changed. And when we get to the website, and I'll show you some things, I'll show you how the previous winner of the national prize also changed over time. So you just keep getting better and better and better as time goes on. So another question?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say are some of the essential resources for people or websites, internet, whatever, that kind of helps you formulate your ideas or get you to where you are?
Yeah. So the question was, what are some of the essential resources?
Mm-hmm. And so from the kind of ideation stage, there's a lot of startup meetup things that are going on here at CMU, at other universities, also in the city. There's Facebook groups out there like Hackers and Founders is a local one here in Pittsburgh, and it's a great place to network, meet other people, share ideas. Those kind of informal environments are really low pressure and just allow you to kind of float ideas amongst each other, and is really helpful to, again, talk about what you're building and why it matters. Constantly kind of going off that theme is so important in moving a startup forward. And then some of these competitions as well obviously are great starting places, but I'd really tap into those startup networks. There's also quite a few maker spaces that have popped up around the city, where you can get a really discounted fee. It's like $50 a month and you can join them, and there's 200 other startups, companies there, and they just provide that coffee shop environment where you can just go and sit down and meet someone new. And so I think just putting yourself out there, it's not easy always to go to these types of things, but just kind of starting there. And then later stage, after ideation, CMU has so many phenomenal resources around building a business. Obviously the Center for Innovation, or I think they just rebranded, but CIE,
The Schwartz Center
now. They have some phenomenal resources and workshops that happen. There's multiple ones even on a weekly basis, and so if that's a particular interest, they'll bring in an expert on either fundraising or building a team or the lean startup methodology. Go attend those, because that's where you can learn a lot, as well as meet other people.
And in case you have anybody on the webcast who's listening from another university, we found that of all the 16 universities that are part of this consortium, all of them have some version of a Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship where you can get training and help, and so you should be sure to approach them. Other questions?
Yes.
Specific to the Cleantech competition itself. So when you came out with Gecko Robotics, how far of the technical design did you get to when you started?
Yeah, that's.
If you have the full design ready, how far
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Repeat the
I
question.
will. So his question was specific to the Cleantech competition. How far along was the technology, and then where has it gone today? And so to answer that question, I think the technology was a second generation, not even quite MVP, but had gone through some iterations. It was at the point where we could show it to users, and even had some commercial traction. And we're in an industry specifically providing these inspections where they're doing it by the manual way, so any sort of robotic equipment that can go in there is kind of a drastic jump from where they are today. So for us, as soon as we had that technology where we were comfortable that it might work 50% of the way, we went and got it out there and started to sell it. And that's super useful to get that kind of user feedback and continue to iterate on the product. And then obviously these competitions helped get it there the rest of the way, because it was our source of financing, it was our source of being able to reinvest and add more people to the team. We're now a team of 8 people, and it's gone from kind of that minimally viable product to it's a commercially ready and people are using it type product. So as much traction as you can show, both on the technology side but the user side, but it's not a requirement. I mean, there's plenty of companies that are coming in the ideation stage, all the way to kind of ours, which we kind of had the product out there and we're trying to get feedback. But I think our specific application enabled that, just because of the kind of jump we were making in the technology versus the previous. Does that help? Yes.
Just as a follow-up, so basically you had prototypes of this already in the market and you just kind of, through the competition, you just expanded on it.
Yeah. It sort of came in waves. So Debbie mentioned this started back in January, and then through the next 6 months there was a couple different competitions we did, and so even throughout that process the technology made a lot of advances, and continue to do that. It's not a fully finished product, but just having the ability to display what you have and get it out there as quick as you can allows you to be a lot more informed and to continue to make good design changes and technology changes. So.
Any last questions? Okay, thanks. So let's thank Troy